Do you think you can mention? Some people still view me as guest. Can you just say Greg from Real Rejects,
Okay, cool.
just to make me feel better about myself?
Welcome to the Across the Spoilerverse podcast. I'm your host, Greg from Real Rejects. Before the episode, Greg made sure that I said Greg from Real Rejects and not just Greg Alba. So yeah, I'm Greg from Real Rejects. Everyone, how's it going?
Hi, I'm Paul from Heavy Spoilers. You got a certain cadence. You got a little more nasal, and then I initially.
Yeah, definitely.
Paul, dude, theory time. That's all I know how to do, really.
Yeah,
that's the closest I can do. Theory time.
And I'm wearing the Theory Time t-shirt from shopzeroedition.com if you want to support the channel. My nasalness is going to be even worse this week because I've got a cold. The kids, they're just bringing everything from nursery.
Those twins.
Every other week. They've got
They
a cold.
are ruining you. You need to get rid of those twins. You need to get some new kids.
Yeah, thanks for that, Greg. I'm sure my wife will be very pleased to watch this back.
She doesn't watch your stuff. I know her. She doesn't watch any of this. Does she watch any of your stuff? Does she actually watch your stuff?
Never wants to watch it. Ever. Which is fair enough, because I wouldn't want to watch it either. Because it's pretty crap, to be fair. Now, we're going to have the best show ever this week, though. I promise you guys that.
Good transition.
Yeah. So, lots of box office news to talk about. Greg, is anything you want to start us off with?
Yeah, man. I want to start us off with listing off things we're going to be probably talking about. Because we got we got some surprise box office hits and some bigger surprise box office drops. Looks like Indiana Jones might be one of, the big talk has been The Flash being the biggest, huge box office bomb. But it looks like Indiana Jones, because of how much it costs, might even be a bigger bomb. You just saw Mission Impossible 7, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
You just?
Yeah.
So we got to talk about Mission Impossible 7. Get your thoughts out there. And then a little bit before filming, you told me this morning, and then I ended up doing I literally just ended a live stream a few minutes ago, pretty much on an empty stomach. Deadpool, Wolverine. We got our first look at his new outfit. And there's a couple of other things that maybe we'll dive into, maybe. But these are the main ones on the agenda. Paul, I know you love talking about box office goodies. 2 movies came out this weekend, which have knocked off. So Indiana Jones is number 3 in the box office right now. Is that what it is?
I'm not 100% sure. We can go through it, though.
Because
so, Insidious.
I don't know what any of these movies are. I mean, other than Insidious. What's Sound of Freedom?
So yeah, we'll talk about it in just a bit. But basically, Insidious, the Red Door, that has opened now. It did 32.6 million opening weekend on a $16 million budget. It's really now knocked Indiana Jones off the top spot, which is if you told me the 5th Insidious movie would beat the 5th Indiana Jones film at the box office, I would have thought, nah, no way. But we talked about it last week. It's obviously horror normally does quite well, but obviously these guys have came in very, very, low budget. They've done really well off the back of it, and it's also
got terrible reviews though. That's the surprising part. Like the reviews are awful for it.
Yeah, like both my editors went to see it thinking that I was gonna do a video on it, and then they were like, "Yeah, it was crap. It was the worst thing I've ever seen." And they're like, "But we did it for the video, guys." And I'm like, yeah, did it for the video, but we're working on Mission Impossible first, and some movie from the 80s probably."
That's okay.
So
got it.
Next, Indiana Jones has basically had a 56% drop, leading to it now taking 247.9 million worldwide, which, as you said, could be one of the biggest bombs of all time. This is primarily down to the budget. So one of the biggest bombs of all time, for example, Pluto Nash, it was made for 100 million, took in 7 million. And I think we're going to have to wait until Indiana Jones finishes its run to see whether, it's as big of a bomb as that percentage-wise, but it's looking pretty bad. And yet, on Independence Day in the US, it was beaten by another film called The Sound of Freedom. That's a film about child trafficking. quite a serious subject matter. It's not actually released in the UK. I'm sort of getting secondhand information on it, but there's a lot of things surrounding the film. It was originally finished in 2018 under 20th Century Fox. Disney then bought the company, and they decided to shelve the film. And Jim Caviezel apparently got the rights back to it, and he's distributed it, and it's now beaten Disney. So it's like just a crazy story. You know what? Every time I try and read up on it on Twitter or something, there's people arguing back and forth. The left and right are going at it, saying it's a right wing conspiracy theorist film, and then the left are being, the right are being like, well, no, it's based on true story and stuff, and it's kind of diluted the conversation around it. But it's obviously a very important subject matter. I think whatever you think about, wherever your politics lean, I'm sure you can agree it's very, very important. And yeah, it's crazy to think that the circumstance was that Disney owned it, that they could have distributed it, and now on Independence Day, July 4th was going to be the big day where everyone was off in America, and Indiana Jones was going to reign supreme, and it's even knocked that off the top spot. So it kind of takes us into our first major topic, is what has happened with Disney. I mean, Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar are now shells of their former selves. And yeah, what are your thoughts on it, Greg?
I'm feeling the same way I feel about, as much as these thumbnails that we often have and the titles leading in might look like we're raging out in some way. A lot of the times I hear this and I find it a little funny, to be honest. Just how bad something is doing. Like I was just doing a quick Google search while you were talking, and I wanted to know, and just based off of the information we currently have and the trajectory, it's kind of crazy to see how Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I didn't think this would be the case at all. It is indeed actually looking to be a worse box office bomb than the Flash movie. So to have two of these back-to-back movies that within like a 1 month period, like the same month to be released, is it's a bit of a shocker to me overall, and it's just having me think do they have this impression, especially Disney, do they have this impression that they can just throw as much money as they want at something and not think about any of the repercussions that could possibly happen when you're putting this much money into something? And I'm surprised Insidious, because I don't remember the last one doing that well. And I haven't seen I've only seen the first 3 Insidious movies. I don't remember the 4th one doing that well. Maybe there was some actual hype due to the fact that you have the cast returning, but I thought the bad reviews and like the lukewarm audience reception would not do it any favors. But apparently that fan base is just that strong to return for Insidious. And I'm not surprised. Like I haven't even seen a trailer for The Sound of Freedom, but the second I heard faith-based movie, I'm like, okay, that makes sense, because faith-based movies are always doing really well. They're something that I never personally cover. The last faith-based movie I saw was the Mark Wahlberg, Mel Gibson movie, Father Stew. Watched it randomly on Netflix. I actually really enjoyed it, and that's kind of like an oddball for a faith-based movie, but that didn't do that well. That was like a hard R of a film. But anytime I hear of a faith-based movie, I don't know how well you follow those, but they constantly are in like the top 3 and end up making like really good money every time. So I'm not surprised how well it did. What is surprising is what you're bringing up, that it's 4th of July. Indiana Jones is like an American icon in cinematic history. They wanted to capitalize specifically off of this, and the fact of how they didn't really deliver with a movie that was ultimately special enough. I mean, I know it's special to some people, and if you find it special, I'm happy for you if you did find the experience overall special. But clearly, the word of mouth on this movie, if this movie overall was received more special, it would have it would have had a better word of mouth and more people would have gone and seen it. That's just the plain and simple truth. Like, they had a whole weekend, like 4th of July fell on a freaking Tuesday. So they had like several days to just sweep, like to be like phenomenal and really garner this amazing word of mouth. But bottom line, it didn't. It didn't. And, Disney's always getting like this bad press now, like for everything from like Kathleen Kennedy with Lucasfilm to the way animators are treated, like, and I know that's kind of like an industry. A lot of this is just industry issues, not just Disney solely, but Disney being the global masterminds that they are, the face of it all. Like, it makes sense why a lot of the blame and spotlight would be put on them for what's happening. And I know we are going to talk about Mission Impossible 7 soon, which has an insanely high budget as well. And part of that insanely high budget is due to what Indiana Jones had to suffer with as well, with having to film during the pandemic. So I'm curious to see if Mission Impossible 7 will be able to ultimately profit and outperform as well and be like a big box office sensation.
I think it will, genuinely. It's opened on a Monday in the UK. So we've got it 2 days early. I think it's Wednesday for you, but even then, that's an early opening. So it's got a long time to build the money before that opening weekend, and it can come out to a big fanfare and be like, look how well it's done. And I genuinely think, we'll get into it in a bit, but I really enjoyed the movie, and I think it's going to have good word of mouth. We talked about this last week. It's one of those films where it's like, you have to see it in a cinema. And watching it in IMAX, I was blown away by it. And I had a feeling where I was like, if I was watching this at home, I don't think it would be as, big and crazy. But on the big screen, the sound, honestly, it's so immersive. They have bits where there's no dialogue or sound effects in it. It's just the score playing over the top. And even though action's happening, the sound effects just aren't there, and it's just the score. And to have that booming out the speakers was crazy. And it just feels like an experience that you need to go see in the cinema. Now, Insidious.
Do you think the runtime will affect the box? I mean, I know we're going to do like a talk on the review of Mission Impossible 7, but I feel like since we're on the production budget and box office subject, do you think the runtime, because that movie's really long, it's 2 hours and 43 minutes.
So is Indiana Jones, is it not about the same length as that?
Yeah, I think Indiana Jones is the same length, roughly.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be, they're going to cancel each other out. If people are going to go at the cinema and they're both 2 hour and 40-minute long movies, I don't think it's going to affect it either way. But Insidious is obviously being sold as a big success story. It has made 32.6 million, which, if it was any other movie, that wouldn't be a massive success story. But because they've not spent the amount that they should have, not spent a crazy amount like they did with Indiana Jones, which was 300 million plus budget, it's not going to be a loss for the company, and it's going to make their money. Yeah. And one of the things I feel with Disney is that greed has destroyed their branding. You've got I went for a run last night, Greg, and I had a bit of an epiphany, and I'm going to tell you guys what happened. So my headphones ran out of batteries, so I had to think for myself for once. And I've been thinking, if you've been following the channel, we had a really big year last year. And I have a spreadsheet where I write down all my views for the month, and then a year on year I can compare them. Now, compared to last year, stuff's not where it was. The views aren't as big as they were, and it was hitting a point where I was getting really down about it. And what I started to do was do more videos than I should, because I was just desperate to get back. And to be honest, I was being greedy. But then I started to think, the person last year, if they knew, they would be envious of where I am now. Just because of, I've moved house, I've got staff that I consider friends. The channel's in a really good place. It might not be doing the views, but we're far more comfortable than we were. We're not panicking all the time. I've got a lovely family, lovely little dog, lovely wife. And I think
you didn't mention me at all in this.
No, you're not included.
The whole list you didn't once go. And I got my American friend Greg. Not one.
Not in the list.
Part of you. Does anyone just throw me in there? Okay, yeah, sure.
No, got no friends in America at all, which is also another great thing. But I was thinking, I'm getting jealous of my past self, and the views that they had, and I know my past self would have been jealous of where I am now. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it would have been looking at me going, "Oh, if I could get to that." And I know you have the same thing where it's like in your head when you have a bad month, you're like, "Oh, if I could only get to where I was in the good old days when I was getting 1 million more views than what I'm getting now." And I think and it just made me realize that what's enough, and is greed slowly destroying everything when I could be enjoying it. And
Sure.
thank God I had this crazy epiphany and my headphones ran out of batteries, but I started thinking, I could be greedy right now and want more and more and more, and just keep desperately want to be like, oh, I want more views. And to think back when I was getting those views, I wouldn't actually say I was happier than I am now. Now, if you translate that over to a film studio, it's clear that Disney have seen the success of what their brands are. For example, Star Wars was a massive thing. Marvel was massive. Pixar was massive at one time. Pixar is one of those studios that they were making animated movies, but not only were they popular and they made money, but they were also really well critically acclaimed as well. That's something that critics could be like, "Oh, Pixar movies,
Sure.
that's amazing." And what they've done is they try to be as greedy as possible. They've made so many Disney Plus shows, just pump them out. Doesn't matter about what the quality is, just people are going to lap this stuff up anyway. We need to make as much money as we can. And you can see how the greed of wanting to make more money off the back of these properties, rather than putting out good things that they're proud of, has just destroyed the brands almost. Like, you don't hear these things talked about in the same high esteem that they used to be. Now, sure, people can enjoy the shows, but even something like Secret Invasion, I really enjoy it. But I go on Twitter and people aren't really talking about it. No one's that interested. And it just feels like they've put out these things over and over, and it has just killed a brand. And it was a long run, Greg. And I was thinking, do you remember back a couple of years ago, there was that argument they should have ended the MCU after Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I love the MCU, happy to keep it going, but I was thinking, you know what? Maybe they should have just taken some time off and a break, because even thinking of how it was structured, like the first film in the timelines, Captain America, the First Avenger, ends with Captain America not getting to dance with Peggy Carter and then getting frozen in ice. Final shot of Endgame is Captain America dancing with Peggy Carter, and I was thinking, imagine if they just stepped back at that point, how highly regarded the series would be. It would be like, whoa, they ended it perfectly, and maybe took some time off. But instead, what they did was they doubled down and were like, well, we've got a golden goose here. Let's just crap out as many eggs as we can. And you can see, like, they didn't need to make an Indiana Jones 5, and the greed of wanting to get Harrison Ford back out, get that money in. We need fans to do it. And it was the same thing when they announced Toy Story, the next Toy Story movie. I don't even know what number it is now, but they've announced another Toy Story movie and stuff. And it's just kind of like, yeah, Toy Story 5. And I'm just thinking, you're making these decisions based off greed and not because you actually want to do it. You're just constantly wanting more and more money, and you're pushing out as many products as possible. And you don't realize that in the end, it's going to bring it all crashing down.
Yeah.
Because people are just sick of the mediocrity right now. Even when you make something good, like Secret Invasion, in my opinion, people just aren't interested anymore.
I think you're right. Absolutely. I think you're right. And I think that the greed has always been there. Obviously, they're a mega corporation on all fronts. So greed has always been there. And a lot of the times, you can look at a lot of the decision making and go, well, that's business, right? That is definitely business of, okay, how do we save costs to maximize profit? I totally get that. I sincerely do. I think right now what's happening, and especially in the last couple of years, is while the greed has always been there, you've always kind of had to have a line of how do we be, like, this is going to sound a little messed up, but how do we be greedy, but at the same time, not really let the world feel the greed. And now we're feeling the greed. Now the greed, I think, is just more apparent than ever. Like, you could always look into shit, and like, they've been franchising stuff out forever. They make stuff just for toys. There's always been a billion different things that companies like Disney will do that are solely based and not in reverency for the storytelling or whatever. It has been solely to make money. Like most of the decision studios will make movies and shows to make a profit, to make money. So sometimes it's just a business decision. It doesn't necessarily equate to being greedy. At the same time, I get the analogy that you're making from being YouTubers to now, because we know the feeling of when something is doing well for us, like how do we milk it? And then, okay, things are going bad. How do we just do more volume then to compensate for the lack of views? Like I totally get where you're coming from there, and I full-heartedly agree. And I think just now what's happening with Disney is in particular, as you can see from when they bought Star Wars and how they monopolize their properties, is they just keep shelving shit out without thinking about reception and how and the importance of quality, because there is value in missing something. There is value in, and a big part of what I think sells, whether it be tuning into a show or tuning into a movie, like I think why, like a big thing that I'll do on my channel are trailer reactions, right? And a lot of times what you do are trailer breakdowns. And why I think those do so well is because you get this feeling of anticipation. And if you don't give us time to miss something, that feeling of anticipation becomes weaker. It's nowhere near as strong as it needs to be. So yeah, like they just kind of put their foot on the pedal at full speed with a lot of these things, particularly with Star Wars and Marvel. And instead of allowing us to miss stuff and bring quality, because that's part of my concern with Deadpool 3. That's happening right now, is I'm excited for Deadpool 3. Like I see these costumes, I know who's in it. I mean, it's like at least what's officially revealed. Who knows what leaks are true and what aren't. I'm excited for Deadpool 3, but they're shooting this in the middle of a writer's strike. And as much faith as I have, and this is a Disney movie. This is like a Disney move. Like they made a weird move to me, where they're like, we're going to release this earlier, actually, while we're filming this in a writer's strike. Like, wait, what? I think this is something that if they need to delay it to make it a better movie, they really should delay it to make it a better movie because of the hype that they have built into it right now. Like, obviously, you can have a really good script in pre-production and have some good ideas, but any filmmaker will tell you that when it comes time to being on set and shooting something, not everything's going to go according to plan. Not everything's going to turn out the way you envisioned it to be. Sometimes you get happy accidents. Sometimes you get shit where you're like, this just isn't working. And they're in a position where they can't rewrite anything. They can't change anything. They have to work with what they got. And when you remove that opportunity, when you remove that option to be able to change stuff, which is such a necessary ingredient to making a good movie, then you get a diminished property. And the fact that they're like, Disney's moving this up, like the one can go, that must mean they have a lot of faith in what it is. Another can be exactly what your initial point actually is, Paul, is that they see the hype for this. They see what's happening with Marvel. They need something that is going to like rebound and regain and get them $1 billion hit. Deadpool, release it sooner. Get it done. Get it out there. We're like, but we're in the writer's strike. Shouldn't we make a better movie and wait? No, just get it out. Like there's two conversations that could be had with it. So yeah, I'm with you. That greed has always been there. Obviously, it's just now coming to the surface a lot more apparent now.
Yeah, I just think greed destroys everything. I've literally sat and thought about it last night so much. Relationships, people end up cheating on their partners because they just see someone else that they like and then they cheat with them and realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I've ruined my life. And yeah, just I was literally thinking it's the worst human trait last night. And powered through the run, got 10K done in an hour, so happy with myself. But I tell you what, Greg, going back to that point of franchising stuff out, there is ways to do it. And I think when people care, it just comes across. Mission Impossible 7, we're 7 films deep now. It could be seen as a greedy thing, potentially. I don't feel that at all with this film. I think you can tell Even down to the delays, they moved this movie back a couple of times because they wanted, they wanted time to finish it and for basically it'd be the best thing it could be. And one thing I feel about Tom Cruise, I feel like he's putting his all into these films.
Absolutely.
I really, really do. Everything the guy, just the way he promotes it, you can tell that he's grateful that people are going to watch his film as well. He's not like, oh yeah, here's another one, we'll just put it out. Yeah, we just did this, whatever. Even when he's in interviews, he's thanking people for coming to see his movie and stuff. And it's like, no, I enjoy watching them, Tom.
Yeah.
And let's get into our sort of spoilery review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Now, I think I'm going to have a slightly different reaction to you. Not massively, but hit it off, Greg. What were your thoughts on it?
The thing is, I liked Mission Impossible 7. I absolutely. First off, on the Tom Cruise thing, I just want to tell you, I could talk about Tom Cruise. We could do a whole podcast just about Tom Cruise, his work ethic. Because there's a reason he delayed Top Gun Maverick, and he would refuse to let it release at a certain time because there's one producer out there who I sincerely believe cares about the audience reception and really cares about the audience experience. It's Tom Cruise. Like, he can repeat the same answers in a billion interviews, and it seems like he's answering it for the first time because he cares that much about qualitative promote. Like, he really gives a shit. So, and that shows in this movie. I did not see this on IMAX. It was, and I know that is the way to see this movie. So I have tickets to see it again. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. And I love Mission Impossible 3 through 6. Love those movies so much. And I would say I like this one quite a bit. I liked it a lot. There were just aspects to it that just did not. And I know some people are like, you should just kind of take it on its own merits. And I'm like, well, it's part 7, and it's a movie that really also definitely encompasses a lot that came before it that requires viewing of the previous. So I can't just look at it as it's standalone. Like, you're asking me to complete. That's a weird thing to ask of a viewer, to go 7 movies in and just completely negate the other ones. Like, I can't. You can't do that. It's like a massive brain trick I got to pull on myself. Because it has all the ingredients that I like about all the Mission Impossible movies, for sure. The big stunts, a lot of the cool plot lines, Tom Cruise's more than committed performance. I just wasn't as enveloped in the actual. Some people just go to these movies now only for the payoff of the stunts and stuff like that, and in the action scenes. And for me, I've always really loved the things surrounding the action scenes. And that was the part where I thought some of the pacing and the tone and the quality of the writing around those elements outside of the action scenes. And I would not say like not all of it wasn't working for me. It's just there's too many moments throughout that were kind of not really hitting it for me, that kind of would undermine feelings where I thought could have been more intense or exciting. And I know we said semi-spoilery, so I'm going to really mince my words here.
Yeah,
and
go for spoilers. It's the heavy spoilers show.
Even though it's not out. Okay, fine. There's something that really
in England.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, heavy spoilers here. There's something that really bothered me in this movie that I didn't even tease in my non-spoiler review. Rebecca Ferguson dies in this movie. And that should have been the thing that I thought would have been like, okay, I guess it's about to get real dark and personal. And they get like a moment of Tom Cruise looking sad for like a couple minutes, and then you kind of just forget about it.
And He's with Haley Atwell now.
That's what I mean. I was like, what? This is like the girl who's been in the last 3 movies, like the one who might have been the potential new love of his life. And then even here, they're getting more intimate at times, like they're holding hands and shit. And then I've even talked with a couple people who saw it a couple weeks ago, and I brought up like, and then from the bottom is like how Rebecca Ferguson dies, and then they don't even really treat it that like, and then the same reaction would come from almost everyone, which is, Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like people
Yeah.
forget that she died, I'm like, and that's not a good sign to me about it. And like, I don't know, when I watch like 3 through 6, especially like 3 and 6, a lot of those scenes really hit for me. You know, like the feels really kick in for me. And so yeah, it was kind of like it has a lot of the plot stuff seems to be doing exactly. It's even right down to they've gone rogue. You've got people chasing Ethan Hunt.
The
Who
AI's gone rogue
AI's gone
as
rogue.
well.
Our team's gone rogue. You got these people who are hunting Ethan Hunt again, and it's like it's a weird plot point to me by this point because I'm like, how come every time these people who are hunting Ethan Hunt, they're always treating him like he's the worst terrorist on the whole goddamn planet? I'm like, you're the 7th movie to be doing this. Of like, you're the worst people on the goddamn planet. When there's never anyone to be like, maybe he's just being framed again, or maybe he's just misunderstood again. They always, and yeah.
Oh, was that
I
guy
think
on the train who said that?
eventually,
Yeah,
eventually,
like,
there's the
maybe
one guy
Ethan's
who's
a
like,
good guy.
maybe. And I think what happens is I'm so well aware of like it's got like a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I see most people are like highlighting the because like the thing you show up for from the trailers, it's all great, all of that's great. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's great. But to me, most of this movie is not action as rightfully should be. Most of it's not action. And it's that stuff that wasn't quite singing as high for me. Like I thought the whole thing with the villain having this personal backstory felt a little bit forced and not naturally weaved in. I felt like I could really feel like we need to figure out a way to do it. So, and I think I kind of over explain the things that weren't really quite working for me because I'm so well aware of how loved it is that I over explain the things that didn't work for me when I'm like, well, the things that most people love, I'm actually in agreement with you on. Like Tom Cruise is great. I love Pom Klementieff in it. I love Haley Atwell. Sensational. Action scenes are really good. Even the parts of the action that were not fully working for me. I do think though on a second viewing, I will like it more. And I think especially watching it on a real IMAX, I'm probably going to end up I might graduate to the love level for it, but right now I'm just like, no, I liked it a lot. I did. I liked it a lot. I would put it below the last 4, but I still liked it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, back to the Ilsa thing, I do agree that I've written my review and recorded it, and that was one of the points I brought up. I feel that was slightly lessened by the fact they had a fake out death of her at the start of the movie. So it was kind of like, oh, I've already gone through experiencing her death and then it happened again. Yeah, I do think they could have dealt with that moment a bit more. It kind of felt like maybe she'd just been written out, or they didn't find her that interesting, or she had scheduling conflicts. But Ethan didn't really seem to hang on it. My other issue with the film was just the constant agencies, and I lost at some points who he was actually working for, and yeah, I just didn't fully get the villain motivation, which is good thing that I'm making an unexplained tomorrow going over it all. But I do kind of get it, but I thought the villain was a bit weak.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're in the spoiler section, it's basically an AI who's kind of infiltrated every aspect of life, and they want to take over, and they can basically control the truth, and spread
It's like
misinformation to either cause wars or end them or empower certain people. And there's a guy working for them called Gabriel, who ties back to Ian's past. He killed a woman in his past, and yeah, he's kind of sort of not a massive. I don't know. I don't get the personality leaping off him. So yeah, I felt like he fell flat, but I love the film. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the action was really good, and even when the action wasn't happening, I felt they shot the sort of the exposition heavy scenes really well. There's a moment where they have like 7 different actors all sitting in a room. Each one's delivering a different line of dialogue.
give a line. Yeah.
Yeah, a guy like
fun.
walks in looking mysterious in the corner and stuff, and
Yeah.
they shoot it in a way that it's interesting to watch. Even if it is kind of just very exposition heavy and someone explaining the plot. And you can feel the hands of the writer being like, right, we've written out what needs to be said. How do we make this look interesting? Well, we'll give the line to 7 different people or whatever. But I love the way that the film ramps up. You start off with a submarine, very intense, and then you cut to like a delivery guy dropping off a parcel, and Ethan Hunt's like standing in the corner in the darkness out of the way, like the Riddler or something. And then they go to the airport, which is a really good scene. And it's all sort of just people walking around grabbing each other.
Yeah.
But it's done in such a way that it's very enthralling, and you get introduced to Hayley Atwell. She's kind of a Catwoman sort of figure. Very interesting, though. I could sing Hayley Atwell's praises to death. She really stood out for me. She's sort of, when people say, like, they go off on their rants about woke, strong female characters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Hayley Atwell in this film, I can't see how you could ever find fault with her. I think she does vulnerable really well. She does strong. She's witty, cunning. She can handle herself in an action scene. I think she does really, really well with it. So don't you dare come to this podcast chatting about woke stuff.
Dude, I think, to just quickly interject about that point, I think Hayley Atwell is an absolute breath of. I loved her here, and I think like the Mission Impossible franchise lately, from Palm to Rebecca Ferguson, to Hayley Atwell, I think they do an excellent job at strong female characters. I think they do a wonderful job. I don't ever hear people even say the word like woke around them. I think they're all good.
Yeah, they are. They're really good. So yeah, thought they were brilliant, and the stunts as well. Just to have the train scene at the end, so well put together with all the masks and stuff, and then they keep elevating it and having different things. You've got sort of people sitting down talking, but whilst that's going on, Tom Cruise is on a motorbike riding along. Good. And you said right last week that the cliff scene was very short, but I thought it was quite long, because you have him going off the cliff and then you follow him for a while, and then he does the parachuting stuff and then swings into the train. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I was thinking, I don't know what the hell Greg's talking about. He's a disgrace. Thumbs down. I was getting my phone out and going on your video and thumbs down in it. And then once the train...
He jumps off the cliff. It's over. Once he's off the cliff, it's over.
No, but you follow him down and he's like, whoa, shit.
Yeah, they cut to a shot eventually where he's parachuting. Yeah, there's eventually a parachuting shot.
Then you have a fight on top of the train, which is great. And then the train goes off the edge and they've got to climb up it. Just thought really well thought out action scene. Strangely, it's very similar to Indiana Jones on a number of levels.
Sure,
you've got a spicy British brunette sidekick getting herself in trouble. You've got two halves of a MacGuffin that need to come together. You've got a train sequence where the train did the train go off the edge at the start of Indiana Jones? I don't remember.
But yeah, it eventually falls off. They have to jump because it's going to fall.
Lots of similar things, but I thought this just kept the adrenaline up. The pace was incredible. Even for a long movie, I did feel it at times, but they were constantly reinventing what was happening. And, just in the same way, I said this in my John Wick review, I feel like you can tell the people behind the film have, they've basically made this film a number of times. Like John Wick, they'd made the same sort of film several times. And the latest film was them sort of be showing off that they've now mastered all of these elements. So like your car chases, your gunfights, your action scenes, everything's down pat. And I feel like this is what that film is. It's everything they've kind of learned whilst they were making all the other movies. They've brought that together, and it's just a masterclass in how to make an action movie. Tom Cruise, the guy, blew me away. And yeah, I just loved it. I really did. The score was incredible. It's massive in scale.
Yes.
It's a worldwide adventure, and they didn't even lean that heavily into the gadgets in this one. Normally you'll get something creative where they make themselves invisible going down a hallway, or they'll do something with one of the gadgets will mess up and they've got to improvise around it. And they didn't do it that much in this film. It was more kind of physical stuff, which I thought worked really well. Like, fair enough, they had the face swapping stuff in the airport, but it wasn't to the level that they normally do it. But yeah, I loved it.
Do you miss some of the? I kind of miss a little bit of the. I thought that with getting, I forget the character's name, but the guy from Mission Impossible 1 who comes back here.
Bing Rames.
No, the white guy, the one who's like, is he bad or good?
Kit Rich.
Kid Rich, yeah. I thought that they might go back a little bit more because I noticed tonally I felt like McQuarrie was aiming to tonally have a little bit of that menace that Brian De Palma brought to the first one, in terms of like the espionage menace, but the movie itself doesn't ever really become like an espionage film. It's more, this to me is more of a straightforward like action thriller than the previous ones. There's less spy. I mean, I don't know, maybe Fallout is too. But yeah, I'm kind of missing a little bit more of like some of the spy stuff. I mean, it's there, like the hacking the satellites. Whenever you got Benji and Luther, especially like the airport scene felt the most akin to some of the things I've been wanting from the movies again. Like I really like that airport scene a lot. It might not be like crazy stunts or anything like that, but I love the way that whole scene is crafted together. Like it's intense, it's gripping, it ramps up really well. And I did the thing with the train sequence. Oh, do you know what too? Vanessa Kirby, I think is so good at this. She's so good. She has this part in the movie where, like, when she's just playing whatever the character, I forget the character's name. Do you remember the character's name? I don't remember her name.
Elena?
Might be.
Say.
The buyer, but when she's just
It's
being
Max's
herself.
daughter.
Yeah. When she's being herself, her actual character, like, she's good, but I loved how she played. She had to be Haley Atwell pretending to be her.
Yeah.
And be Haley, and she's so good in that
Alana.
whole scene. Oh yeah, she's amazing there. I thought her performance was excellent. The train sequence, I love the craftsmanship of it, and I love the literally the whole way the whole thing is choreographed together. The one part of it that was a bit distracting to me, and that's only because with the Mission Impossible movies, I'm obsessed with the behind. There's not many movies where I'm obsessed with the behind the scenes of them on. And Mission Impossible in particular, I am very much obsessed with the behind the scenes. And that might have been something that actually worked against me for the motorcycle stunt, because that motorcycle stunt I thought was so effective in the behind the scenes. And the one thing I was saying in my review was that I feel like with a lot of the big stunts in these films, that you usually get like a full scene where it's so suspenseful. And I did feel like when he's off the cliff, like you kind of cut back to the parachute, and I wasn't a fan of how they ended it, where he just where it ends on a joke, where it just like he crashes through and conveniently saves Haley Atwell in the train. Like I wish there was like some kind of like actual seeing him go to the train. I know it's a lot to ask of someone. Like, I wish Tom Cruise was really risking his life so much and like fucking parachuting to the train. Like, I wish I saw that. That's a lot to ask. And so I thought it was so short-lived, and that we didn't get much of a dramatic tension scene out of it. It was more of the drama and the tension of it was him like going up the hill on the motorcycle, but not really the stunt in and of itself. But it's still a wildly impressive stunt. I don't want that to be like, I really want that to be underscored. Like, it's a wildly impressive stunt. But in the train sequence, when they're like hopping around, it really reminded me of Uncharted 2. Yeah, Uncharted 2, specifically the opening of that game. And the part that was only distracting me, and that's only because I'm so obsessed with the behind the scenes, so I kind of think it works against me having some of this awareness. But I can't tell if it just looks this way or if it actually is the case, because of the way, like, when they're hanging and stuff, that and the fact that Haley Atwell's there and the things are collapsing, that it looked like a green screen to me on the train when everything is like, the sequence of the piano is going to crash on them. And so to me, it actually pulled me out of the suspense and the danger, only because I was like, I'm kind of aware that this isn't real. And it's kind of like the way I felt about Ghost Protocol with the parking garage scene where at the end, like, this is a little too much for me.
Yeah, I think with Mission Impossible movies is that they do so much of it practically, to the point that when they do something with CGI, you can spot it And I did notice that about the train. I was obviously, they're not going to dangle. Well, they might dangle Tom Cruise off
They
the
might
side of a
dangle
train.
Tom, but not Haley Atwell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen the biplane scenes coming up in the next film. But yeah, I felt, going back to that first film, which you brought up before, this was them remaking
The
that
train
third
moment.
act from the first film.
Yeah.
It's got Kit Rich involved. It's got Max's daughter. It's them redoing it now, knowing everything that they know about filming and how to make action scenes. And it ended on a bit of a weird cliffhanger. It wasn't really, I don't know, it kind of felt like it could keep going. I know it's a part one, but it was I personally like cliffhangers that feel like losses almost. For example, Infinity War, Empire Strikes Back, that sort of thing. Whereas this, he gets the two keys at the end. It's like, you're now going after the Sevastopol. And did they ever explain what was actually on the submarine? Because they kept going, when it unlocks, you find out the truth of what's really in there. And they had a bit where...
Please.
They had a bit where he was talking with Pom in French, and my wife leaned over and said, "What they saying?" And I was like, I don't know, and I missed it all. And I was thinking, bloody hell, I've got to make a video on this tomorrow, and I've got no idea what they just said, and they're speaking in French, and there's no subtitles. So yeah, did they mention about the thing in the books?
I'm not sure. My favorite part about the writing in the first 20 minutes was how, like, every scene, you can call it a nitpick, but I think it's, I thought it was funny, of how every scene they just had to re-explain, there's a key, all right? And then you got to get the other half of this key, and then you got to put the keys together to control. So, and like every scene just kept reestablishing this. And I'm like, I get the fucking point about the keys. Like that, can you just cut to like the middle of the scene where they've already learned about the key? And that's my only so I got so focused on the MacGuffin that I was like, I'm not even thinking about what the actual thing is, the mystery boxes. Man, it's a good movie though. It's a fun movie and
brilliant.
It's fun. I feel like on a second viewing, especially on IMAX, because I went to one of these like events on Paramount Lot, and I'm surprised that they showed it on Dolby, which is a great screen and great sound. But this movie's obviously meant for IMAX, and Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, first times I saw those movies were on IMAX, and they shoot these with IMAX cameras the way it's meant to be seen. So like when you craft a movie specifically for that format, that's the like I've seen some Nolan movies where I saw it on a regular screen, I thought they were okay, and then I watched them on an IMAX and I'm like, oh wait, I actually get this movie much more. And I'm kind of wondering if I'm sort of feeling like I'm going to get that. I know not everyone who's seen this movie who loves it saw it on IMAX. I'm fully aware of that. I'm wondering for me though, as someone who often has that like filmmaker awareness, just because I love the behind the scenes and it makes me understand the vision and intent much better, that when I watch it on IMAX, I'm going to be like, okay, yeah, no, it's really clicked with me this time. So no, I think, and regardless, I think it is one of those movies more than Indiana Jones that warrants a big screen viewing. This requires, like, when Tom Cruise says he makes movies for the big screen, he really means it. And in a day and age where everything gets kind of washed out by massive amounts of CGI, and you could do crazy CGI on television now, but you can't really do crazy practical big stunts. And that's one of the things that makes John Wick special as well. The leg up that I feel John Wick 4 has over this is that, to me, the story of John Wick 4 did something different enough with their story, with like where the ensemble and the new characters really shine and were such a takeaway with the storytelling. Whereas here, a lot of the storytelling feels like, these are the beats of a Mission Impossible movie. This is the outline of a Mission Impossible movie for the most part. But still, the sets pieces, the action scenes, the locations. Like, one thing I loved with that in the car chase with the Fiat is, did you actually, I forget, did you have someone else do the Fast X breakdown, or did you do that? I don't remember.
I did it, yeah.
Okay. the scene in Rome when they're going down the stairs, and like they're doing a lot of the same locations in Fast X, but they're the exact same locations. But here you get to see it done practically with these like brilliant locked off shots where they got the cameras mounted on the cars. And I thought it was so cool to like, I just saw Fast X a couple weeks ago. Now I'm watching this where Fast X, and while like there's like, you could take the God's eye thing and put it to the AI thing here. And so there's similarities you can certainly draw. But in terms of like, I would much rather see this on the big screen for the action scenes than I would see Fast X, because of just how much the practical side of it really does shine. And I also love in the story of this one how it's so much about Ethan Hunt and the women in his life. Like sexy the women love Ethan Hunt so much, man. He is a protector. So yeah, man. I still liked it a lot. I still did. I don't want people to think I didn't like it a lot.
I said in my review, it's like Fast and the Furious if Fast and the Furious wasn't shit. And yeah, that's how I feel about the film. It's got family. I actually prefer it over John Wick purely because of the characters. I think John Wick is a little flat on the characterization of characters. You know, they don't really have that much depth. They're sort of two-dimensional people who are like, I will kill John Wick. Why are you doing that? He is not honorable. He has brought shame and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Whereas, yeah, I mean, Haley Atwell's character I can totally understand. Even Benji just panicking, trying to disarm a bomb. Stuff like that, you know, I think that goes further for me at least. But I mean, they're both great films, and you know, this year has been really good for action movies, I think. So yeah, but I think this is going to be the runaway hit of the year, to be honest. You know, Barbie and Oppenheimer might do well, but I think either this or Mario is probably going to come out on top. So yeah, very good.
That's the part of it though that I'm wondering is that because you got Barbie and Oppenheimer 1 week after this, you know, and lifespan
on the same
hype
day.
of things. Yeah, conversations on movies die pretty quick. So I'm wondering if like it's just coming out, if the timing of it might not be good because it's got two big movies following it 1 week later, two movies that are expected to do well at the box office.
I mean, Top Gun Maverick, you know, that had legs. It was months and months after where it was still making money, and I think Tom Cruise is going to keep it in the cinema. It's not going to be something that's dumped on streaming in 45 days' time. I think they're going to keep it and it'll keep making money. Oppenheimer got even more hype now. That trailer was shown in IMAX before. It was the first time I've seen it in IMAX. It's crazy to step up, like watching it on a laptop screen. Or even on like, I've got a 60-inch OLED, but watching it in the cinema blew me away. Absolutely amazing.
I'm trying to pull up the thing I sent you yesterday on Telegram. Is that the in order for, because there was like I was looking up a percentage breakdown of like how much did Fallout make based off of its budget. So in order for it to match the same profit percentage, because some people were saying that it's every outlet. I know some people were like, in our comments in the last video were saying that no, this had to be for two movies, the 290 million.
The budget.
But they didn't shoot 7 and 8 back to back. So the report, like every outlet is reporting part one as 290 million, and a big factor of that is the fact that they shot it during COVID and they had to shut the movie down like 7 times. But they still had to keep people like, you know, paid, staying in the countries that they were filming it. Like it cost them a lot of extra money to shoot this during COVID. So it was like 290 million. So, but if to make the same profit percentage of success, it would need to make like $1.64 billion just based off of the inflated budget that this movie gets. Now it doesn't need to make that to be considered a success. Because the budget's 290 million. And in fact, if it matches Fallout, it'll be fine. Fallout made like $800 million. So the question is like, I think it has a good chance of, you know, the fact that he just did Top Gun Maverick and that was his first $1 billion hit. And I think he has that like goodwill with audiences that, you know, he'll deliver the goods on that. But I think the Top Gun Maverick, I don't think this will reach, I don't think it'll be as big as Top Gun Maverick. There was more hype for Top Gun Maverick because of like, finally he's doing it. And then it's more of a rousing, tighter, more feel good film by the, like that's more to is as much as he delivers on stunts and all that excitement, like I prefer I prefer the Mission Impossible franchise over the Top Gun franchise. To me, it just makes a lot more sense why Top Gun Maverick would be like, this is the more repeat viewing experience. This is the one where like you get crowds from, like, I remember when I saw Top Gun Maverick, I was like, wow, there's like a bunch of 50-year-olds here. There's like a much older audience that's here as well as a younger audience. And I feel like that's what it has more of a leg up on that. And it was also a shorter movie. So
yeah, I prefer Top Gun Maverick, but that's one of my favorite films. But this is a part one as well, so it's laying the groundwork for part two.
Sure.
So if it does well, I mean, even if it just breaks even, but if it builds enough goodwill that people are desperate to see that second movie. Like, one of the reasons why Avengers Endgame was so big was because Avengers Infinity War was so big. You know what I mean? It was so good that it got people hyped for that next film. And I feel like this could do it. Maybe not to that level, but I definitely feel like there's a lot of good things going on with it, and it could pave the way for them to. I mean, they were originally talking about that being the last Mission Impossible film, but they've now said, "No, we've got more ideas. We're going to have them go rogue." So yeah, lots of good things there. And Vanessa Kirby, might be seeing her again very soon as we move on to our next topic. What is it, Greg?
Oh, we're going to do it. The Fantastic Four one. We're doing it. We didn't talk about this before filming. Casting. All right, I guess we'll talk about it. Well, it looks like when it comes to the leaks on Fantastic Four, I'm going off memory here. When it comes to the leaks of Fantastic Four, of who the casting is, for a while it was like, looks like it's going to be Adam Driver, Margot Robbie, and now it's looking like it might not be. It looks like they might have backed out, and I'm seeing other reports saying that it is going to be Adam Driver still, but who knows? We look, but now it seems that a Margot Robbie being out, that Vanessa Kirby might just be taking her place to be the next Sue Storm, which I am all for that casting. In fact, I actually prefer. I love Margot. I don't want anyone to think like she's one of my favorite actresses working today. I love the hell out of Margot Robbie. Part of me, though, is like, I actually prefer the casting of Vanessa Kirby just because she's not at the same height of Margot Robbie in terms of fame and stuff. And I think it would be cool for her to get that opportunity to be like the true, like one of the main stars of this film. Like, I love her work in the Mission Impossible movies. I even really liked her work in the much forgotten Hobbs and Shaw film. I thought she was great in that. And I've always, every time she shows up anywhere, I think she knows how to command the screen when she's there. And so I would love for her to be Sue Storm. I feel like she can bring, because she can be fun and she can be intense at the same time. She can do action. She could do it all. And I feel like she's deserving of having like a big starring role where she is like one of the centerpieces of it instead of another female supporting character. You know what I mean? I think she could be great. What do you think?
I think
Paul?
she works better I think she works better against Adam Driver than Margot Robbie does as well. I don't know. Margot Robbie kind of brings a different vibe to Adam Driver to me, whereas I think Vanessa Kirby could quite easily match that and sort of tonally work quite well with them. You know, actors have got to have chemistry and stuff. Especially these are these are probably the most famous married couple in comic books outside of maybe Peter Parker and Mary Jane, but who knows if they're married anymore. Like, they keep changing it every other week. But yeah, so I feel Vanessa Kirby matches Adam Driver if he has indeed got the role. Now, speaking of married couples, we also have Elektra, who's apparently going to be in Deadpool 3, and I'm guessing that this is going to be linked to the Ben Affleck cameo. Now, in case you don't know, they used to be married, and I felt for our Ben, because I was thinking like, oh, you know, he's just got a new job, and then all of a sudden his ex-wife starts working there as well. But I'm sure they get on really well behind the scenes. I have actually heard they get on quite well. You know, he seems like a mature guy. So yeah, I've heard that, you know, that I'm sure they'll be fine, and that'll be very strange. Now, Deadpool, all the news with that, it's gone crazy right now. How are you feeling about it?
I mean, I mentioned what my concerns were about it when we were talking about the production budget, but man, I'm excited, dude. I'm really
Yeah.
excited. Like the when I saw the Wolverine costume, I have a feeling at some point in the movie the sleeves will be torn off. The arm sleeves. I think at one point he will tear them off. Um, but I still don't mind it. Like even when what really clicked for me, I was like, okay, yeah, this looks cool. But when I saw forgetting the specific name of it on his claws of where they are on the gloves, for some reason, just honing in on that and knowing like, oh, the claws are going to be protruding from there this time, and seeing them on the gloves themselves, I was like, this is just getting me so excited. Like it is working for me on that animated love level, and then when I've read it from the comics, because when we saw Patrick Stewart going to be in like Multiverse of Madness, and they say he's like the X-Men animated series version, but nothing was really done with that to really warrant a big conversation. I think this is going to be the exact kind of opposite effect. And then hearing that, it seems like they really are controlling the narrative behind the scenes. Like let's show the Wolverine costume, let's show the Deadpool costume. They look more comics accurate, both of the costumes. The rumors, like letting something like if you said Ben Affleck, if they leaked that Ben Affleck, if Hollywood Reporter reported on Ben Affleck returning, that's like too big. But then saying Elektra, that's just enough to make you go, maybe Ben Affleck's actually returning now too. Is there not? Maybe that is true. So to put you in that terrain, do I think it'll match? Because the thing is like with Multiverse of Madness, the cameo rumors were just too insane. There was a point where it was like 30 to 40 cameos being rumored.
Tom Cruise Iron Man.
Yeah. Do I think that this movie will have that many cameos? No. Do I think it'll more than deliver on the cameos and make it more rewarding than what Multiverse of Madness did? Yes. I don't think it'll ever be as crazy as Multiverse of Madness, the rumor mill went, but I think it'll ultimately be satisfying. And if like they're showing us this stuff, it does have me wonder, okay, if we see some of the other X-Men, like what if we see James Marsden in an accurate Cyclops costume? What if we get to see like some cool shit like that, and then getting to pay off the Fox universe in a way that could be fun with saying goodbye to them. But one thing about the Deadpool movies that I think some people often forget about is that both those movies have so much heart. At the end of the day, those movies have a lot of emotion still rooted in them, in the midst of like really wacky, weird comedy. And I feel like it'll be something of a nostalgic goodbye to the Fox universe while also taking the piss out of the Fox universe. I think they're gonna. Yeah. I think they can make something really special. So, regardless of my worries that I have for the film of while it's in production, I still feel like ultimately it'll give me some of my favorite moments of the Deadpool trilogy. Even if it's not my favorite Deadpool movie, I think I'll still get some of my favorite moments. I mean, how are you feeling? I did listen to your breakdown last night. So I know you got a bunch of information on it, but how are you feeling though about it, dude?
Yeah, you know what? When I first heard it, the leaks, I was like, I think it's kind of a victim of coming out when it is, which is, we've had so many multiverse movies now, and we kind of know the tropes of them. It's like bring back all the actors from other franchises and have some time travel stuff, and someone's got to die to sacrifice themselves and stuff like that. And if you can probably predict the plot of Deadpool 3. I mean, whether these plot leaks are true or not, we don't know, but they do sound a bit cookie cutter. Now, what is going to raise them for me is kind of like, I'm a big Fox X-Men fan. At one point, don't tell anyone, I preferred it to the MCU. And, seeing Hubert Jackman back, Ian McKellen, it's probably spoiling too much. Seeing the X-Men characters back is going to be good. And it does sound like it's going to be a farewell to that universe, whilst also maintaining some things that they can bring across. Now, if you want to know what the plot is, or it might be, then go over to my plot leak breakdown. But I don't want to spoil more beyond that in case, because there will be people who are probably annoyed that I've just said what I've said anyway. But yeah, it's good. It sounds crazy. It sounds a bit like a sort of mix between Loki and multiverse of madness almost, but like a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And they're gonna, and one of my big worries about the MCU at the moment has been like they're not gonna handle incursions properly. I absolutely love Secret Wars, and I think the way they're doing it, not to play my hand too much, but it sounds like if you're aware of that story, they're sort of making the 838, that they're turning that into the 616, and it's going to be sort of the Ultimate Universe, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a sort of Ultimate Universe, which is the 838 versus the 616 sort of thing. So how it's going to play out, I don't know. I have heard some things about what they're going to do after Secret Wars, which I might do in a video, but it's it's obviously incredibly early days now. But, X-Men fans, you're going to be happy. And if you're fans of Avengers versus X-Men, you're going to be happy as well. So yeah, lots of things to look forward to.
Yeah, man.
And the costume looks great as well. The Wolverine costume, yeah, sorry. I love it.
I love the costume so much. I think it's funny because this costume wouldn't work. When you look back at the Wolverine deleted scene when they showed you the, like, oh, he might wear the costume, but he doesn't wear the costume. Yeah. That one had more of like almost like a slight orange tint to it, which is kind of like how some of the comics are. It was like a darker yellow, and maybe that would have worked in the live action X-Men. But if he was like the only X-Men with a common member with a costume like that, and everyone else was still like dark leather, it wouldn't have worked. This costume would not have worked in that X-Men franchise. But the fact that they have this in the Deadpool movie and bring it into the MCU, it does work.
Yeah.
And for me, as someone who's been wanting like a more Wolverine accurate costume to harken back to the comics, I've always been saying, like many other people, that if you're going to bring him over here, I feel like the last remaining payoff you really need for Hugh Jackman, beyond like joining the Avengers or some shit, is give him a more comics accurate costume. And I think that's what it was about, specifically of where the claws are going to be coming out of, because, like that was such a big moment in the first X-Men movie of when it comes out between his knuckles. And, people was like, no, it's supposed to come out from like up here. And like, oh, they're even changing that up. So it's really is showing you like, this is going to be a different Wolverine. To me, that's such an indicator of it, more than a costume, that this will be a different Wolverine, because that where the claws come from was such a big thing in those X-Men movies. And now they're changing that up. So yeah, dude, I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Next photo will be him wearing the mask, I think. I think they've kind of teased the thing off, and then they seem to be really smart at maintaining hype for this film. They're not dropping massive things, but they're doing something every couple of weeks to just kind of keep you interested and invested. And it feels like we're back in the good old days, Greg, of Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home hype, and we're gonna make a video a week about it.
Of the credits. Yeah, man, it's so fucking cool. I mean, it feels like the announcement was just so. Doesn't it feel like the announcement that like Wolverine's returning, that video that they did? I feel like that just happened like not long ago, and now we're like this far along. It's pretty crazy how we're here now.
Well,
I'm excited.
A lot of people didn't even know whether they should report on this on YouTube because of how the leak came out. It looked like it was like a behind the scenes thing where they've just kind of someone's leaked it. But Hugh Jackman posted it on his Instagram, and I quickly updated my thumbnail, make it look relevant.
Smart man. Yeah, no, thanks to you, I got to have a successful live stream. It's funny, like this morning, for people who don't know, as we're ending this stream, was that I was telling Paul, like, all right, what are the stories we want to talk about? I really want to research what they are beforehand. And then I went to so when I go to the gym, my process every morning has been, I go to the gym, I go to the sauna, put on some headphones, I meditate in the sauna, then I go work out. After I was done meditating, Paul tells me, we also got this Wolverine thing. I'm like, what Wolverine thing? He messages me, and I see it. I'm like, what? And then I called up Coy, and I was like, you gotta come over right now. We gotta do something about this. And so I had to like jet home, totally skip my workout and everything. I did not have a 10K run like you. I ran home, and stream ended up doing well. And even though it ended like a little over an hour ago, I'm still seeing that this hour and a half stream got 6.3K views in the last hour. So thank you, Paul.
Yay!
I completely missed the news because I was too busy trying to get my health in order. But thank you. Thank you. I have to thank you.
Well, speaking of health, I have to keep turning my mic down because I'm coughing away here. So we'll wrap it up there. I think we covered everything.
Let's wrap it up. We covered it all, man.
Ended on a much more positive note. You know, when we first came into the podcast, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be another week where we just talk about how much we hate everything and how Disney have destroyed everything. But you know what? We had lots of nice things to say, which I'm glad because I prefer these more positive things. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. What do you mean? Or negative for 40 minutes of it? But yeah, please leave a comment below. If you've been enjoying the show, you can find us on all podcasts. Well, not all of them, but Apple, Spotify, Amazon.
On everyone's podcast. We're going to be on all the podcasts.
And thank you for all the support as well. It's been great. I mean, we've done like a first full month's out the way now. And me and Greg were like, oh, we can't actually believe how, it's done a lot better than we thought. So yeah, thanks a lot. Much appreciated.
And for those watching, I hope you enjoy my leg that's been in frame this whole time. I didn't notice that until right now. Yeah. It's my little hairy leg.
Enjoy it, baby. You won't be seeing it next week. You'll need to put some super chats in and super thanks to say that if you want, you scumbags. So yeah, if you want to support us, go to shopzeroedition.com. You can buy merch from Greg. You can buy merch from me. I like the heavy cap. You can buy it on there. We appreciate all you guys as well. We love you. We're like Tom Cruise. We genuinely love you guys, and you make the show every week. And thanks so much. So yeah, see you guys next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. You take care of yourself. Peace. And let us know your thoughts on Mission Impossible if you've seen it as well. Love you. Goodbye. Bye.